My WoW sub's on the verge of expiration. By the time I'm finished making this video, it'll be gone for good. But as of this moment, I've got 15 hours to go. That's 15 hours to complete my long, drawn-out review of Tanaan Jungle. Man, I can't wait to leave this wretched green nightmare and never return. Let's take a quick look at Warlords 6.0. When the expansion was released, I spoke quite highly of it. The initial questing was excellent, because it was actual content. Sadly, I had no idea it marked the beginning of the end. It wouldn't be long before I grew to despise Blizzard Entertainment. After hitting level cap on several different characters, I started to realize that there wasn't much else to do in the open world of Draenor. The normal dailies I had grown accustomed to since BC were basically purged from the game. Players were given Apexis daily grinds instead. This change was undoubtedly one of the biggest missteps of the entire expansion. If I were in charge of Blizzard, I would have tested players' reactions to Apexis Dailies, and offered them alongside normal dailies. That way, if Apexis Dailies failed, like they did, players could ignore them and still have an alternate form of endgame content to occupy their time with. Instead, Blizzard stupidly put all their eggs in one basket, and unfortunately for them, that basket was a cheap mesh of poorly woven garbage. The eggs broke, resulting in a substantial majority of players complaining about Apexis dailies both early and often. I've got to point out the only mild entertainment I ever had with the 6.0 Apexis dailies was when I'd complete them in a giant raid group. I'd fly to the Pit of Gorgrond, use the LFG tool to find a raid, and just wash over the Iron Horde in a massive army of players. Of course, it wasn't long before Blizzard removed our ability to do this from the game because the tired old adage is true: Blizzard hates fun. So anyway, 7.5 months later, after all the negative feedback, Blizzard released patch 6.2, and it's essentially nothing but more Apexis daily grinds. Now, I understand that Tanaan Jungle was already in development by the time Blizzard started receiving said feedback, and it was far too late to drastically change directions. 6.2 was screwed on this account no matter which way you slice it. But there was a good way to handle the situation, and a bad way. Blizzard chose the bad way. Again, I would have diversified, added some proper dailies to Tanaan, in addition to the ill-fated Apexis grinds, and I would have made damn sure those dailies were fun. I'll share my suggestions on how a bit later on in this video, but Blizzard decided to keep Apexis dailies the fundamental source of endgame content, adjusting only the reward system. Blizzard said, okay, we know what you guys think of Apexis dailies. We're not going to bother changing the gameplay in any way, shape, or form, but we're going to throw more rewards behind the activity. We're going to make you feel totally obligated to do something you absolutely hate. Problem solved. Now give us your money, you brainless twits. You know what's the most disturbing part of this change? Some players fell for it. Apexis dailies are every bit as dull and punishing as they used to be, yet I heard a lot of people defending them on the forums and so on. These new Apexis grinds are so much better than before. I'm really enjoying my time in Tanaan. This totally puts the 6.0 daily grinds to shame. No, shut up! Enough already. Don't encourage Blizzard. They failed. Again. 6.0, 6.2, they're exactly the same. Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The Apexis bar itself was changed. Oh boy, check out those sweet new graphics. Dear God. It's beautiful. Now I finally understand why it took so long for Tanaan to get released. Check out that bar. So, as it stands right now in 6.2, obtaining and upgrading Apexis Gear is slightly better than before. And I mean slightly in the strictest sense of the word. I still think the gear is far too overpriced. Blizzard also locked flight behind Apexis dailies, and they're offering a collector's edition mount reskin that tons of players seem to find appealing. But again, making the rewards more rewarding isn't a satisfactory solution. Blizzard basically slathered lipstick on a pig. Let's say I go to a restaurant and I order a steak. To my surprise, the waiter serves me a plate full of shit. I try my best to swallow it because I paid good money for it, but ultimately I can't stomach it. It's vile. Eating shit sucks. So I complain to the waiter. I say, hey, what gives, man? I ordered steak, not shit. So, do you think you could maybe go back in the kitchen and try and find some steak? Preferably like the kind you hyped in the menu? The waiter quietly takes my plate and disappears into the kitchen. 7.5 months later, he returns to my table with the same exact plate of shit, only now it's smothered in condiments. Ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, anything the chef could find to try and disguise the taste. At this point, I'm pissed, and I don't see how anyone could blame me. I barge into the kitchen and yell at the chef. I say, hey, this meal you prepared is terrible. You need to reassess your recipe for steak, because this shit isn't cutting it. The chef says, I'm sorry, but cooking a good steak takes time and effort, and unfortunately this restaurant's no longer interested in pursuing those goals. So if you still want to eat here, you'll have to make do with whatever meals I can pull out of my ass. This scenario is how I feel about Apexis Dailies, and WoD in general. I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but I really want to make sure I'm getting my point across. Blizzard didn't even attempt to assess the real problem here, let alone fix it. Why don't Apexis Dailies work? That's a really important question. I've heard some players say there's no actual difference between normal dailies and Apexis Dailies, and I'll admit, on the surface that might seem true. But this short-sighted observation couldn't be more wrong. Let's imagine if Volmar offered proper dailies. On Monday, 3 daily quest givers asked me to kill 20 orcs, burn 20 blueprints, and destroy 20 tanks. Once these quests are in my log, I head to the questing zone. Now there's actual planning I need to do. I have to find my objectives, because they're clear-cut and precise. I have to be quick and on my toes, because if I'm not focusing on the task at hand, other players might beat me to the punch. And searching for specific targets to kill or destroy usually requires me to delve deep into the questing area, which inevitably puts me in more danger. On the flip side, Apexis Dailies just require you to fill a bar. Every action you take contributes to that goal, no matter what you do. I could stay on the outskirts of an Apexis zone and safely pull one enemy at a time if I wanted. If another player beats me to an enemy, it doesn't matter whatsoever. I'll just turn around and attack anything else. If I see a blueprint that can be burned, but it's surrounded by tons of enemies, I can easily ignore those blueprints. It's not mandatory that I burn them, because points are points. I'll go someplace else where the mobs are thinner. I'll take the path of least resistance every time. Also, supplying players with proper dailies gives Blizzard an opportunity to rotate them daily. Monday, I'm asked to kill 20 orcs. Tuesday, I might not get the same orc quest. I might be asked to steal 20 supply crates instead. Variety is insanely important to the longevity of player retention. Apexis Dailies never change. You fill the same bar every day. But again, Blizzard designed Tanaan with Apexis Dailies in mind. There wasn't enough time to drastically change that game plan before launch. So if I'm management at Blizzard Entertainment, and since this is all make-believe, let's pretend I still care about quality, I'm now asking myself, how can we escape the rut we're stuck in? Well, for starters, I'd make the interactable objects within Apexis zones more dynamic. Get rid of this single click and done bullshit. I click a set of blueprints, it burns. I click on a corpse, it burns. I click on an Arakoa scroll, it burns. This is so lazy, and it's just more proof that Blizzard phoned in this entire expansion. There's one good thing in all the new Apexis areas that's actually worthwhile. You can jump into some stationary turrets at the Iron Docks and turn them against the Iron Horde. When I found that out, I nearly had a fucking heart attack. This is more along the lines of what I expected. Only, even these guns are pretty crappy because ammo's hard to find, and when you do manage to find some, it doesn't last long. We should be stealing Iron Horde tanks and using them to mow down enemy troops. Remember that daily quest in Pandaria that had us rolling down the Great Wall like Sonic the Hedgehog? That was fun. How about applying that same mechanic to remote control Iron Stars? We could drive them into enemy camps on a daily basis. Hell, we actually did something like that in a non-repeatable quest in Talador. It wouldn't have been that hard to copy and paste that coding into Tanaan. Most of the Tanaan jungle map is taken up by Apexis daily grinding areas. The other locations are either dead space, friendly hubs, or Sabron lands. The longevity of this content mainly rests upon Apexis Dailies. And a barely functional stationary turret is as good as it gets? Wow. That's it. Warcraft's dead. The creative minds behind this game have officially declared mental bankruptcy. What if we were asked to steal Iron Horde blueprints in order to learn how to construct military drones? This achievement can unlock drone dailies, where we'd fly our new weaponry into Iron Horde camps to either kill enemies or hijack supplies. We could grab the supply crates with retractable claws, like those crane machine games you often see in arcades. I'm just throwing random ideas at the wall here, because no one else is. Blizzard said the selfie cam was a project made by a couple of overambitious employees. The new cat cuddling animations are probably more of the same. Where the fuck is the A-team? Are any employees actually working on the core game? Maybe I'll save that subject for a future video. Wild speculations and tinfoil hat conspiracy theories on what I think is really going on behind the scenes at Blizzard Entertainment. Anyway, I'm finally finished with my review of Tanaan Jungle. Like I mentioned before, I could have stretched it out even further, but there's no point. I didn't start making Warcraft videos to complain about the game. In fact, my first videos of WoD were quite positive. People seem to overlook that when they criticize me for being so negative. I fully expected to enjoy this expansion, and I foolishly held out for far longer than I should have, hoping I'd see things get better. But the World of Warcraft I know is gone, and I don't think it's possible that Blizzard could ever win me back. I'll continue to keep this channel alive in some form or another. I'll probably share my opinions on other MMOs, giving people my thoughts on alternatives to WoW. I'll probably even give my opinions on future WoW news, if I find any of it worth talking about. But my personal time in Azeroth and Draenor has officially come to an end. In a final farewell, I'm parking my characters in the locations I feel they fit best, to live out their digital existences in peaceful retirement until the day Blizzard decides to pull the server plugs. Thanks for watching, and hey, if you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know. I'm always open to viewer suggestions. Just leave them in the comments section below. Talk to you later.